Back to Jazmin's question. Jazmin asked me, what are some of the things that you learned over the last 10 years since you left YouTube? And I'm going to generalize that question because I think she was really talking about art journaling. I'm going to generalize it to creativity and what I've learned about creativity. And so one of the things that I've learned about creativity is that it is not an endless well. There are a lot of cliches about creativity, being a well, you've got to draw from the well, it's a cup you've got to fill up and all of that stuff. Also about creative fire, you've got to stoke the fire, you've got to feed the fire. And I don't like either one of those cliches. And, they work to a point, but to me, my creativity is an engine. And I like the idea of an engine because you've got to care for an engine. Without proper maintenance, an engine seizes up and it stops running. And I think that's a great metaphor for creativity, because you have to feed your creativity. You have to care for your creativity. You have to, maintain it. You got to change your spark plugs. You got to add oil to the engine. You got to lubricate all the parts and grease things. You got to make sure the battery is working. And you also have to stoke it. You have to feed that engine with, gas or ethanol or whatever you're using for your engine. And it is important to feed the engine. It's also important to maintain the engine. And one of the things that I thought about creativity, and this is why I was working a job that wasn't creative. I thought that if I worked a creative job, it was going to deplete my creativity, that creativity was a finite resource. And it's not. Creativity is something that grows and expands with you. And the more you feed it, the more you use it, the more you have. And I really thought, and this in part, I'll get to it in a second, I really thought that if I worked in a creative job or a creative field, that the work that I was doing for other people would deter me from doing my own creative work. And in part of that was because I had started a job when I was really young that was creative. I was an art teacher, and I started doing that when I was 21. And it was terrible. I had a terrible boss. It was a terrible experience teaching. I had great kids. I had great students. My students were wonderful. But the experience of teaching for me was not great. And that's in part why I'm shooting at a middle school. It was not a good thing for me. And when I look back at all of the jobs that I've had over the years, a bad job is a bad job, and a bad boss is a bad boss. And it doesn't matter if I'm working in a creative position or if I'm working in a non-creative position. If I have a bad boss, or the job itself is bad for me, it's not a good fit. It doesn't feed creativity. Currently, I am working in a creative position. I'm an art therapist, and I work in an after-school program where I work with kids, youth. I work with elementary through high school students, and we do art therapy-based groups. Groups aren't straight art therapy. There's some education in there. There's this fine line that we weave between art therapy and art education. And I'm not going to go into that here because that's not what this video is about. This video is about feeding my creativity and, working in a job that is creative. And now I've found that because I am doing creative work, I'm doing a creative job. It feeds my creativity. It doesn't detract from my creativity. And I find it very, very helpful. So really, it's about a good job versus a bad job as to what feeds your creativity. But also outside of work, I do a lot of creative things that feed into my creativity. And I don't see creativity as only an art thing. Maybe when I get home, I'll take some video of the kitchen sprayer. The kitchen sprayer broke a couple of days ago, and I spent some time trying to fix it. And while I was waiting for the new part to arrive, I kind of rigged up a creative solution to make it work in the meantime. So that's one of those things to think about, is where is creativity outside of art? And for me, that's a big part of it too. Is like I don't see my creativity as separate from my daily life. It is part of my daily life. Um, and again, like going into that metaphor or the idea, the cliche of art as an engine. I am continually feeding that engine new fuel with looking at art, engaging in art, making art, using materials, exploring the materials, and exploring the materials that I know in a new way, and that is all part of feeding the creative engine, giving it the fuel that it needs to run. And if I'm not feeding my creative engine, then it's going to stall out. And certainly an engine, if you're stalled out, you feed it something new. And this is, I think, where a lot of us get into the idea of like the new and shiny things, where we are trying and engaging in new and exciting things to try and feed that creative well, to restoke that creative fire, to get that ignition going, to clean off our spark plugs, if you will. And if your engine is seized, what do you have to do to get it going again? And I think that's a big question for many of us creatives, is like, if we're not feeling creative, how do we get it going again? And I think that answer is different for every single person. And so, I think that's just another thing that I've learned over the years. I don't want to make this video too long and rambling. It's just one of those things that I've learned over the years, and I've got a few more things. I've got this scrap paper. There's something about scrap paper for me that kind of releases my creativity and lets me kind of explore things. I don't know how the sound is going to come out here. There's a lot of cars going by. I probably should have gone around to the side of the building. I'm going to give it a listen in a minute. I also had, actually not long before I quit YouTube, I started working on an art journaling book, and a lot of that has ended up in my zines. But I've got all of these, I've got stacks of these old business cards, old business cards that are junk. I find very freeing to write on and journal on and work on ideas with. Probably why this scrap paper is a little longer than a standard business card, but probably why I saw it and just like had to start using it. So I got a lot of that stuff that I was working on right before I quit YouTube or just after, and I'm going to be mining some of that for some of my videos. So thank you for watching this little video. Hopefully the sound comes out. If not, I'm gonna see if I can edit it in Rush and get that sound a little cleaner, get some of that background noise out. I did record it both on the iPhone as well as on my lav mic, and we'll see. I'm gonna try and hook the lav mic up to this old iPhone and see if it works. But anyway, if you like this kind of content, hit that subscribe button and hit the notification button, the little bell, so you get notified of my new videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.